as dice-based racing games go, Backgammon is pretty good. It gives you enough interaction with your opponent as your pieces intermingle trying to pass each other on the way to their respective finishing lines that you have some fun interactions and some challenges. But the thing that makes Backgammon really interesting is something that's not quite part of the game but is almost always associated, and that is the doubling dice. Today we're going to talk about how the doubling dice makes Backgammon more interesting and how it can be applied to other games. I am Matt Stoodley from Storyfeed.com and you are watching a video. Quick rundown of the rules. Basically, you've got a track. One player is trying to get to one end of the track, the other player is trying to get all of his pieces to the other end of the track. The pieces are intermingled. Now, when you have two pieces together, they are stacked kind of on top of each other, they are safe. But when you only have one piece by itself, that piece can be landed on by another piece, and if it is, then it is sent back to the beginning of that track and it has to go all that way again. On your turn, you roll 2 dice, and then you may move, for each of those 2 dice, you may move one piece that exact number of spaces. You cannot move it onto an opponent's stack that is too high, but you can move it onto an empty stack or any of your own stacks. If you roll a double, you get to move 4 pieces that number of times. If I rolled a double 3, I can move 4 pieces 3 spaces. If you can't move, you don't move, but if you can move, you have to move. First player to get all of their pieces off, and it's an exact moves thing, so at the final bit you have to move exactly to get off. So those are the rules for just one game, but normally Backgammon is played as a race to maybe 7 points, or 5 or 3 or whatever, but the point is it's played as a race to a number of points. And actually, Backgammon makes a point of qualifying the strength of your victories. So if you get all your pieces off before your opponent has any pieces off, that victory is a 2-point victory. If you get all your pieces off before your opponent, when your opponent still has pieces in prison, i.e. can't stuck at the very back of the queue, then you get a 3-point victory. And otherwise than that, it's just a 1-point victory. Which actually can encourage people to resign earlier in the game, because they're like, if they think there's a risk that this game will go to a 2-point loss instead of a 1-point loss, then they will be encouraged to resign and say, hey, I'll just give you a 1-point loss for free now. And then we come to the doubling dice. Now, the doubling dice is just a dice with the numbers 1, 2, 4, 8, 16 and 32 on it. Sometimes it goes 2 to 64. The point in the doubling dice is it gives each player a choice. If you think you're doing well in the game, you say, I want to double this game. So whatever score we would have got, that is now doubled. So if I'd have won by 3 points, then I'll get 6 points. And if your opponent then has a chance to either accept the double and say, yeah, I think I still have a chance, I've still got a good chance of winning this game, or they have a chance to resign and then the game ends. Now, once you've doubled the game once, you're not allowed to double the game again until your opponent has doubled it. So if you double it, then your opponent gets to double it, and then you get to double it again, and then your opponent, and so on and so forth. The value of the game slowly increases. And if you're sure you're going to lose, you have to weigh up the value of the sunk costs that you're going to lose some points if you lose the game, versus how much you'd lose if you double. But if you double it, you've still got a chance of being in and winning the game back. And so it's a chance to take a risk to see whether you think you can do it or to play it out. This has the advantage, of course, that games where they are a foregone conclusion are often ended fairly quickly, so you don't have to spend all of that time rolling out where you're pretty sure you know where the game's going to go anyway. A double ends that game, and it means you can move on to the next game where the tactical stuff is still valid and play again. So the result of doubling is it means you spend more time in Backgammon playing the interesting parts of the game and less time playing the rolling out at the end where it's basically, if it's already decided. It's worth noting as well, I think that this is where the phrase doubling down comes from. You know, you have that choice You've got to look at your situation and decide, do I resign, do I fold, or do I double down? Do I take that double and really go for that win? Now, I wanted to suggest that the doubling dice could be used in more games than just backgammon. Its nature is to get rid of the boring bit at the end of the game when it's already a foregone conclusion. Lots of games you build towards getting so much control of the board that it's clear you're going to win, but now you have the painful, slow bit of actually winning. Well, when you get there, you double, and then your opponent's got to say yes or no. If they say no, then the game ends, and you can move on to another game where you're playing the interesting bit again. Or they can say yes, in which case the stakes are upped, and the game is made more interesting just by the fact that you have more invested in this victory. But if you go beyond the pure skill games like chess and Go, where there really is a push towards one person already being in the lead or having all the control, to lots of other games where there's some risk. I don't think it fits for every game, but I do think it's worth experimenting with, seeing which games the doubling dice could change. Or could we use it in a 4-player game where everybody has to accept the double or fold? And you can use that to push people out of the game. And it's as simple as, if you were the last person to double, you can't double again. But as long as somebody else is doubling, then so that could really push the doubling dice up quicker and encourage people to fold sooner. Or maybe not. Maybe this would just push a few people out of the game quicker, and so there's only two people left in or something. So that's everything I wanted to say about the doubling dice. Where do you think the doubling dice could be used effectively? What games could benefit from getting the interesting bit emphasized? Let me know. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Matt Stoodley from Storyfeed.com. You have just been watching a video about games.